You're listening to The Seed, brought to you by Buick Real Estate, Staley Credit Union, and the Brecknitz Group of Raymond James. Hello, I'm Julie Staley. You are listening to The Seed. Thank you so much for joining us. I join you from Spencer Films, and my co-host is Laura Jahr. She's over at the Staley Museum. Hello, Laura.
Hi, Julie.
Looks like a great day over there. It's always a great day over there.
It is. It's beautiful, but it's really warm over here today. But the last couple of days have been up there, in the 90s. So,
But it brings people out and gets them into the museum and into looking at a lot of the history that's there. And we're talking about something really specific, and that was really, really important to A.E. Staley, something that really was a piece of his heart. This is his involvement in the Masonry as a Mason and his involvement with the Masonic Temple. We do have a whole display at the museum about the Masonic Temple. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what we can see there.
Well, from the museum perspective, we have one board that kind of makes a commentary about Staley's in-depth, really, involvement in the Masonry and the Masonic Temple here in Decatur. His involvement was important enough for him to have a portrait located in the temple, which was done by a pretty well-known area artist, and we have a reproduction of that painting. The original, of course, hangs in the Masonic Temple still to this day. And but maybe even more importantly, as far as our Staley story goes, is the connection between the construction of the temple and then the shortly thereafter construction of the Staley office building. So there are a lot of connections, some more obvious than others, but it's a very interesting story and definitely was an important chapter of his life.
Yeah, absolutely. Those took place generally at the same time, just really a year apart from starting construction on each one of those. And it's really been the Masonic Temple that's there today has been a real centerpiece of Decatur, as the office building has been. And this is all something that you will see when you finally get to see our documentary Fields of Gold, which we are working on, which is about the life of A.E. Staley. We are in post-production and working on distribution for the film right now. And these are stories, part of the stories that we are telling in this documentary, of course, about the office building, about the company, and about his real love for being a Mason, the respect that he had for that, and the part that he played in the Masonic Temple. Now, someone else who knows a lot of history about it that we're going to bring on is our guest today, Chad Richards. Hello, Chad. How are you? Chad is a Mason today in Decatur.
Yeah, hello. How are you doing today?
Great. It's great to have you with us. Tell us just a little bit about your background as a Mason.
I joined the fraternity in 2013. I joined the York Rite, which is located at the temple, in late 2014. I've been a member ever since. I am a past commander of all three bodies at the temple. I currently serve on the board there, as well as remaining a member, one of the few active members left down there. And that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so we see a lot of history that's connecting A.E. Staley with the Masonic Temple, and it's something that you don't really get to see at the temple unless you have been there for an event. Maybe you can describe to us what the homage is that's played to A.E. Staley in the Masonic Temple.
Brother Staley has an entire lounge. We call it the Staley Lounge. It is to the right as soon as you walk in the main front door. It's a beautiful, ornate room. It has never served as a Masonic room, to my knowledge. It's mainly used for gatherings and just relaxing. Non-members would hang out in the room. We've rented the room for birthday parties, stuff like that. There have been other gatherings in that room. It is the artwork and the just everything in that room. It's probably one of the most beautiful rooms in the building, next to the Ionic Hall when it was in its glory. But that is, like I said, the portrait hangs on the east wall, real big, right above the fireplace. It's like he's still looking down on everybody and everything that goes on in the room. It was very, like I said, very nice painting that was mentioned earlier. The painting here, he is wearing his Masonic regalia in this particular painting. I believe the painting that was reproduced, he is not, but I'm not 100% on that. That's just what I've heard.
I can give some information on that. The painting that you have there in the temple was on loan here at the museum when we first opened. And while we had it for a year, I believe, before we returned it to the temple. And while we had it, we had a photographic reproduction made of the painting. So it's a photograph, but it looks like an oil painting. You've probably seen that before.
Yeah.
And so our painting here is the same painting that you have at the temple. Ours is just a reproduction. You have the original. And yours was done by an artist named Robert Root, who was a Shelbyville artist, but he was quite well known here in the central Illinois, well, even beyond central Illinois. He probably would have been more well known had he been willing to relocate from Shelbyville to some other to a larger city. But he did a lot of portraiture, and in my opinion, the one you have several by him. Your Gorin painting is also by him, and you have Chamberlain also. He did a very nice job on the Staley portrait, I think.
I have not seen the reproduction. I'm kind of joking, laughing to myself here. Is there a picture of that same or another picture of him at the Staley Tower without the regalia? Somebody has told me.
Yes,
over the course of time.
There's another portrait in the main foyer of the Staley office building. A whole different portrait by a different artist.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of, and I got my wires crossed. I apologize for that.
Oh no! It's such a great story, and so many people don't have a lot of the information about it. It's great that we're talking about it here and letting people know that these things exist in Decatur for visiting and seeing. So.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is both the Masonic Temple and the office building, as iconic as they are not really visited by that many people. The Masonic Temple, much more so nowadays that it's open. You have events there for the public, but the office building is not a place that the public goes. And both of them have really incredible artwork and detail and craftsmanship that really is worthy of people seeing seeing them and comparing them to see how much alike that they were. Chad, I'm not sure how familiar you are with how the story of how the building was built and how that process came together, but I know Laura is very familiar with how A.E. Staley was very involved with the design of that building, and was very moved by what they did and used that for kind of a template for the office building.
I'd heard that, and again, everything I know, or it's all second, third, it's been passed down to me. I do know that they were built or constructed roughly, around the same time. They both are constructed of Indiana limestone. I heard that Mr. Staley had quite a bit of influence on the actual temple, and a lot of its design work. I've heard a lot of different stories, contributions that he made from his personal side to make sure the temple was completed. And again, the only thing I've ever seen of the Staley Tower is obviously from the outside. I've never been fortunate enough to go in it and see all the neat stuff that I heard is inside there. But it's a really neat story. It's really unique. They're not too far away from each other. And I was told, I've seen older pictures when the tower was built. It was the only thing out there for the most part. So it was, he kind of had a kingdom out there, and then he had the downtown extension of it, which I think is a real neat factor in that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chad, I think that the Masonic, both the temple and the fraternity, the fraternal organization side of the Masonic Temple, I think, and I'm conjecturing here because this isn't written down anywhere, but from things that I've studied of Mr. Staley and his life, I think the temple was very important to him. And I think, and there's a lot of mysticism that surrounds the Masonic order. It's wonderful to see how the Masons are opening up and sharing more and more of their history and their story with the community. I think, Mr. Staley, what he found at the temple was that sense of brotherhood and doing good works. And
Yes.
I think a lot of the men, I guess I would say men of power at the time, at that time were members. There were Muellers that were members also. I think they found through the temple a way to contribute to the community outside of being themselves, but being part of something larger and making contributions to the community. I think that's why Mr. Staley made the important contribution to the temple building that he did. I think it was a place of fraternal, brotherhood and just a communication connection with other men like himself in this
Yes.
community that shared a common view of doing good works.
I agree with that. I've been to, again, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, anybody who was anybody was a Mason. And it was a lot harder to become a Mason back then than it is today. It was a lot more strenuous. You had a longer waiting period, and not to sound braggadocious, but it was, they were the elites. They were the bankers. They were the power players. They were the shakers, movers and shakers, as it were. They were the people that could get things done, make things happen, but still were, had that fraternal brotherhood you're talking about. They had, and they could, they could do good things in the community. They could help people when needed. And that's something that unfortunately today is kind of lost and gone by the wayside.
Well, you're right. The world is changing. But one of the things since you said this, I want to point out something that even, again, indicates to me that the temple was important to Mr. Staley. You talked about elite gentlemen coming and the hard work they had to put in to work their way through the different scales, the different levels of Masonry, the different degrees of Masonry. Yep. And of course, Mr. Staley was a 32nd degree Mason, which means he worked his way through all of those different degree levels. Mr. Staley was somebody who had very little formal education. He had, most of his education took place at the kitchen table with his mother in his early childhood. So when you think about him coming then as a grown man to the temple and putting in that work to work through all of those degrees, and my understanding is those degrees encompassed a lot of different things from sciences to mathematics, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm sure it was a tremendous satisfaction for Staley to work through those degrees and, feel more and more an important member of that brotherhood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The painting that's in his lounge, he's wearing his regular Blue Lodge regalia. He has his York Rite regalia and his Scottish Rite. You mentioned he was a 32nd degree. That is still to this day the Scottish Rite branch of Masonry. Mm-hmm. The York Rite, which he has on his things up on his chest or on his coat, that is the Christian branch of Masonry. To which to become a member of that, you have to. There are certain religious beliefs that you have to believe in. Mm-hmm. And he was a member. He did it all. So that, and again, things took a lot longer back then, and there was a lot more involved with it. and the world was a different place. So I mean, today you have everybody's got something going, but you back in the 20s and 30s, you didn't have the busy world that you have today. You could spend more time being involved and doing and going through the degree work and stuff like that. And those gentlemen back then, not that we don't today, but that was the end all be all. I mean, and to get to the 32nd and go through the York Rite and to become a third degree Master Mason, that was a big thing.
Absolutely, and that's really contributed to the rich history that we have in Decatur for all of the prominent men who have gone through the Masonry and contributed to all of the history. Very fortunate in Decatur to have so many organizations and businesses and individuals who have brought us this kind of history. Buick Real Estate is another business proud to support Decatur and its rich history. They not only help people buy and sell residential and commercial real estate, but they enjoy connecting them with this community that we all love. And Decatur and Central Illinois have much to offer anyone who chooses to reside here. And Buick Real Estate is ready to help you find and buy your dream home or your dream business. And you can find out more at buickrealestate.com. That's VIEWEG realestate.com. Buick Real Estate, working hard so you don't have to. And one of the things about this brotherhood is that A.E. Staley really, and I've seen it documented, how he really went to his colleagues and reached out to each of them and brought them in and made sure that they all had an opportunity to be part of this organization. And so it really was something that all of the people in the community that he surrounded himself with were involved in.
Yeah, and you're right about that, Julie. Many Staley employees at all different levels were Masons. And when the temple was being built, we understand that there were craftsmen from the Staley organization that were sent over to work to help out on the building of the temple while on the Staley clock. So outside of his monetary contribution that he made to the building fund, he also sent workers to help move the project along that he was actually paying, on the Staley clock. I don't know if those workers were also coincided with the ones that were Masons themselves, but it definitely, there are multiple indications throughout Mr. Staley's story that indicate the important place the temple and that. And I have to believe that one of the big attractions is, like what Chad said, at a time when there's less social opportunities for men to get together and do things, the Masonic Temple would have been a wonderful fit for men with certain common goals and some common ways of thinking to get together, share ideas, and grow, I don't know, as human beings, because that really was kind of in the background of the Masonic belief is what kind of human being do you want to be?
And that's also something that A.E. Staley strived for with his company and his employees. They were a family to him. His employees were his family. And he wanted to create an environment where everyone had an opportunity to, grow in their jobs and, in their lifestyle. So he provided ways for them to, buy their own home and have affordable homes in the area. The Staley Fellowship Club, which is a whole other topic, grew out of that, out of being able to provide a way for people to have insurance and also activities to participate in outside of the company. So it was really a lifestyle. And of course, that's how corporations, all corporations were back in that era. And he really led the way in trying to provide that kind of an environment. One of the interesting things, as we're talking about the office building and the connection that it has, is the Fellowship Club began the Staley Credit Union in the office building. It was in the lobby of the office building. And they too are one of our sponsors. And they always ask, what if you owned your own bank? And if you join the Staley Credit Union, then you will. And when you're a credit union member, profits come back to you, not the investors. And how does this happen? Well, if you think lower interest rates on loans, higher dividends on savings, financial education, and unmatched member services, that has always been there with the Staley Credit Union. And if you become a member today, you can just visit staleycu.com. And this institution is not federally insured by Member Choice. It is proudly insured by American Share Insurance. And this was another high point for Mr. Staley to be able to provide something like this for his employees and his colleagues. He really prided himself on being able to round out the life and that his employees and his friends have. And the Masonic Temple was just another wonderful piece of that. Chad, I'm sure as you have been there for many years, many events, the public events and Masonic events, you have heard a lot of stories about A.E. Staley and how he has had a real involvement in the not only the organization but in the building of the Masonic Temple.
Oh yes, I've heard several stories. Unfortunately, I can't verify anything. There's no one to ask. I've heard he besides the monetary contributions, he paid for the carpeting in the building. I've heard he's just several the light fixtures, just little odds and ends that some of the older members have heard had been passed to them. I can't, unfortunately, verify all of it. I take it all and I believe it. There's no reason for me not to believe. I heard he put the flagpole on he paid for the flagpole. I've heard a lot of different things. I've heard people have told me that he paid for the entire building. It's just he's the main guy that is main figure, main brother that is associated with that building because of his influence and who he was.
We do know that he paid for a large portion of it, and I believe it was about $750,000 back then was the construction cost of that. And if you calculate that out, it's about $12 million today. So that really says a lot for how important this was to him and for the community. What I think is interesting is when you go there, there is still original seating. And it's really interesting to believe that A.E. Staley and his colleagues actually sat in those seats in the main auditorium.
Well, and that brings me to another thing I wanted to say to you, Chad. I know that your team, both the Masons themselves and other people that have been brought on board, you guys are really working hard to do some renovation work at the temple and get people into the temple. So hopefully people that will listen to this will follow you guys and see the things that you guys are doing, because it's a building that is very much worth preservation. And in order to be preserved, people are going to have to come and make use of it, right? So that
Yes.
so that it can continue to be a part. You said that you were talking about some of the things that have kind of come down to you as Staley contributions, and you mentioned the carpet. Well, I would not be surprised at all if he did pay for the carpet. Rugs and carpeting seem to be a big thing for Mr. Staley. He gave a lot of attention to that kind of thing at the office building. I'd really like to invite you, Chad, to come and visit with me here at the museum. I'd like to show you some things about the office building. I think you'd be surprised how much of Mr. Staley's masonry he kind of carried over from the temple into the office building. I think it would you'd be surprised, and you would enjoy some of the things that he incorporated into the office building that I feel have a connection to his Masonic roots.
I would love to see that. I kick myself for not having been down there at this point. I remember when we loaned the painting,
Mm-hmm.
and we all talked, well, we need to go down there and look at it and check it out, and time and life and everything else just kind of took me away from it. But I would love to. I will take you up on that invitation. I would love to see everything.
Why don't you talk to your board members, your Masonic people there, and we'll set up a meeting for all of you to come here, and I'll show you some things about the office building that you guys will probably recognize from the temple.
All right, that sounds like a plan. I will definitely do that.
Yeah, it's always great to be able to connect organizations with history in Decatur. Again, so many organizations have a rich history. Another one of our sponsors that does is the Brecknitz Group of Raymond James. There you find a team of professionals with more than 250 years of combined experience. They offer guidance for families, individuals, businesses, and institutional investors. And their powerhouse of experience is supported by the award-winning resources of Raymond James, one of the largest independent financial service firms in the country. And for more information, you can visit thebrecknitzgroup.com. That's the Brecknitz, BRECHNITZ group.com. Brecknitz Group of Raymond James, a financial future backed by strength and stability. And that's exactly what we've seen with the Masonic Temple. It has had strength and stability through the years, and we just need to keep using it and contributing to it as it is a really historic and integral part of Decatur's history. What has gone on there through the years. It was I guess a fitting tribute to Mr. Staley after he passed away. His funeral was held across the street, and there were so many people there that they had to have overflow space, and that's where everyone went to the Masonic Temple, and they set up speakers, and people were able to hear the funeral service, and there were hundreds of flowers across that auditorium for paying tribute to Mr. Staley. So it really was a final tribute to him on that day when he passed at Christmas time of 1940. So it really kind of summed up everything that everyone was able to say goodbye to him at the Masonic Temple. But many years have gone by since then. And Chad, do you know if there are any fundraisers or events coming up for the renovation of the temple?
As far as fundraising, no major events. I'm not aware of any major events right now. We're having, they have small things down there right now. COVID really hurt us. As far as the rentals go, we lost opportunity to make a lot of money. During that time, we had to cancel a lot of parties, a lot of events. But there's a couple people down there. They are currently looking for anybody that wants to have some kind of an event. I know that we are a long way off as far as getting the temple where I feel it needs to be, back in its prominence and glory. Problem with that is you can't. The saying, you cannot get blood out of a turnip. The funds, building that glorious, to try to duplicate it, to try to bring it back to where it was, to where it needs to be. It is no small feat. So we are currently we're planning. I do know that they're planning on doing. They've done this before. We had just like a couple hours of an evening. We would open it up, a couple of the rooms, and we'd give tours, just to show people. And a lot of people don't realize that the building has an auditorium, and it has the big lodge rooms, the Staley room. A lot of the opinion of the board is if we can get more eyes in the building, get more people to see the building. Because we offer more than just the dining rooms. We have like I said earlier, people have rented the Staley Lounge and had a corporate luncheon or just a brief meeting. They've rented the auditorium. There's a lot of potential in the building, but it is quite a bit to do for the handful of people that are currently doing it. So we'd love to get it back to where it was in its heyday. With all the 6,000 members and something going on every night. I'd love to see that again. But it's going to take a lot to get there, and we're hoping that we can get it done and get it back to where it needs to be.
Well,
So
hopefully we're getting the word out here for you. And of course, through the documentary, we're able to share that history with everyone. So
I
continued
appreciate that.
success to everyone at the temple and in the Masonic, all of the Masonic Brotherhood. And we really wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Chad, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we hope you continue to join us. Our next episode is going to drop on June the 7th. We will have Randy Garner with us. And Randy is really kind of as close as you can get to Staley history because he is a great nephew of A.E. Staley. Not only did Randy grow up on the farm that A.E. Staley was born on, but he still owns a piece of that land. So Randy will really have some firsthand experience to share with us. And we are looking very forward to visiting with him and sharing many, many more stories from that farm in North Carolina. That'll be on June the 7th. For now, we say thank you. We say goodbye from our partners, Herald and Review, First Mid Insurance Group, McGuire, Uhas, Huffman, and Buckley CPA Firm, the Staley Museum, and Spencer Films. I'm Julie Staley. And for Laura Jahr, we say thank you and have a great day.